Like an hour and a half of material here. Hello, everyone on stream. We're just coming to you now. I'm going to momentarily cloak some of the individuals who are not yet joining us. Maybe shift some positions. Let's see. Just going to have Raldar go eat Traven, I guess. BRB going to viciously wound the person that was just saved.
It's
Not
what
again.
he deserves.
Well, wah, wah, wah. Anyway, let me just get this set up here. Let's see. Yeah, set that to stream manager. Okay, all right. Yeah, real quick. Well, hello for anyone that's just joining us, and we'll ask you to give us just a moment here. We are getting things set up for our season one Q&A. How's everybody doing this evening?
Surviving.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that's the best we can do. Let's see.
I'm being adorable.
I have no doubt you are.
Aw.
I especially I appreciate the most honorable king of the hill meme.
I'm glad somebody did it.
Uh,
Yeah, I had to.
I mean, I've seen it once already, but let's see. I've lost my train of thought completely from that. I might go ahead and deafen myself here, and I can let you guys continue to chat just so that I can do a little introductory blurb here for everybody's
Sure.
sake. Yeah, so I'm going to deafen for you guys.
No.
Yep, abrupt cutoff there. I should probably mute myself for you as well because you can hear me talking, and that's. Oh no, I'm muted as well. Okay, good. Well then, let's see. So, hello, folks. This is your GM in the Great Barrier here. We're going to get properly started with our stream in just a little bit, or rather, we're going to get the recording going. But I'd like to welcome you here first and foremost to a special night. This is our Star Trek Adventures Broken Sword Season 1 question and answer day. So it has been a little over a year, and our Star Trek Adventures game has, well, the second of our games has, after some going back and forth, wrapped its first season with episode 9. The whole of that you can check out on our archive, which is the YouTube channel. You can just type in !archive to find that. Uh, so before we jumped into our next set of stories, I thought that we would do a question and answer session with the crew that'll be joining us. I am expecting just a couple more. Our captain is unfortunately out for tonight. Let's see. Let me just fire off one other quick message here. Let's see. All right. So, real quick, for any of you that are coming in without context, I'm sure we'll go more into plenty of it later, but this is our Star Trek Adventures Broken Sword game. Um, it is a Klingon-focused game set during the years of the 2250s by the Earth calendar. Which actually takes us in the years before Discovery, Strange New Worlds, and the original series. This is during a very fractious time for the Empire, and we have a very interesting crew to go along with them. We'll be introducing you to most of them, as I said. We're just waiting for a few more to come in. So beyond the archive of all the materials, which, as I said, there's the !archive, and you can also check it out in the panels below here on the stream. We also run one other show, the Star Trek Adventures Aegis game. That is our Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time game. we're on a slightly intermittent schedule for that right now. So if you don't catch that one, then or rather, if you may notice that it's not running every week right now. That's just a number of schedule issues that are cropping up, but we are committed to continuing the game. We should be back to normal by October, I suspect. So let's see. Looks like we have Caligo coming in as well, our chief engineer. Our player is Raldar. So I think that we should be more or less set to go. Before we go into this tonight, the specifics of the Q&A, I just want to invite everybody, in addition to following here, checking out the archive. I'm also presently on Mastodon as far as social media goes, and we have a community Discord. It's a fun place in general to chat about Trek tabletop and the campaign specifically. Try to keep it a welcoming place. But otherwise, if you are interested, you can join there. You can actually pose questions on the Discord. You can also pose them here tonight. So I would definitely invite you to do so. That being said, let's go ahead and get things back together with our crew. So I am going to rejoin here. Stand by. Let's see.
Game, and one of the players
Hey,
sitting
guys.
down. Hey, one of the players sits down and all right, you all gather around, and he starts playing Skyrim inside the Fallout 2D20 game. So they're essentially like Inception with the game. It'd be funny.
That is pretty good. Let's see. I see that it looks like Cheesy might be running just a little bit behind. So if we want to go ahead and get underway, then I figure may as well. Let's see here.
You're the captain.
I am but the GM. I am reserving hosting duties more so for you this evening. So this will be quite a thing. Very quickly, I think just a brief reintroduction of the present crew is in order. So for those of you that I'll go on down the list and you can introduce yourselves as we go. First and foremost, we have our chief engineer and I suppose the second in command, though I don't know that Tabak has established much of a chain of command at this point. In any case, he's probably the person that Tabak trusts most on the ship. And that would be Raldar, the Gorn engineer, played here by Caligo. Caligo, if you want to say anything to that effect to introduce yourself here.
Hi. I'm clearly second command because of my giant son.
Gabagool.
Ready to commit violence
Yes.
at a moment's notice.
That's the maxim I think most of the crew lives by.
The amount of lives saved by LARPing.
Indeed. And while Raldar is prepared to commit extensive violence, our next player here tends to be the one responsible for cleaning much of it up and saving as many of those that he considers as patients as possible. That goes to our Dr. Kresick, played here by Rev. Hey there, Rev. Things you want to say to the group?
Hello, I'm the responsible Gorn and the resident old man doctor of the group. So, yeah, I probably should be the second in command, but, I'm not going to fight it.
Fair enough. We do appreciate you stopping. We do appreciate you coming in tonight, as ironically the doctor has to deal with the onslaught of the plagues. I'm certainly glad to have you here tonight, as with all of you. Most certainly glad to have our tactical officer in tonight, and just a general player that has always been a treat to work with. The one out of this group I've known the longest, Ray, or is Ray. I don't remember how. I've just completely lost my train of thought there.
I pronounce my name Israel, and
Israel.
my mom says Israel, and my grandmother says Israel. So it does not matter.
Yeah. Try to use that more often, and I'll try to commit that to memory. But yes, who plays our Kazinti tactical officer, or at least security specialist, the beefy one, undoubtedly.
She's a
Whoa.
chonky lass. I love her.
Yes.
Hi. I actually made it to one of these, so yay. I
Yeah.
have no I never actually I'm actually kind of nervous. Eee, that's fun.
Oh, it'll be fine.
Quick question, just to kick off the questions before Joe can do it. How old is Kresic? Now I need to know.
I believe that.
Let me actually check. It's actually written.
Yeah,
Hold up.
that I'm pretty sure that bit of lore is even in our community Discord, which all of you can find here.
Wait, we have lore in our Discord? Oh shit.
There was a very mild
Pretty
bit of lore with that introduction.
pretty sure he's a
I
year
know I'm
old
over.
because
I
we've
know
only been
I'm. I know I'm
playing.
over 100.
Oh,
I thought it was
Oh.
closer to 200.
I think I'm like 130 something. Let me check.
What?
Old man.
Man!
Old man.
Man!
Or rather, Raldar finding out how old Kresic is. How long lived are we? How long lived could I be?
We can live that long?
I mean, he probably figured he wouldn't be that long lived in this world after serving in the Imperial fleet.
God
He's
damn.
117. 117.
Okay,
Oh, that's awesome. I think I played the youngest character. How old did I make Whoa? Isn't she like 2?
something
Maybe
like
4. Yeah. Was like 2 years old.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
yeah.
Fucking with the fan fiction writers, I see.
No!
How can they work with this?
Get out of
The
here!
terrible twos. The terrible twos. She is really in the terrible twos right now.
Why do you think she kicks every door open?
Yep. Suddenly, everything makes a lot more sense.
Oh, it
Yep.
all falls into place.
Man,
Oh.
I realized I didn't start the recording here. I'm just gonna have to download this video later and like just arbitrarily pick the start point. Anyway, the last person to introduce, certainly not the least, and very much the person who actually deserves the central spot on screen tonight, I suppose. Our own Mr. Azek Korg, our old Klingon Helms officer, and also the Overland gamer, who operates his own stream, his own podcast, and the first time we did this was nice enough to host this game, actually, or to host our last Q&A session. I thought it only proper to invite him to do so again because he did such a wonderful job. How you
why
doing?
thank you. Why thank you, and a glory to your houses and strong health to each and every one of your little warriors in your houses. Yeah, I'm Joe. Live in Nebraska. I run Overland Gamer, the podcast. Also stream. I've been streaming Everspace 2, which is a space kind of a space exploration RPG ish game. Um, our podcast is kind of it's evolving, so we're trying to figure out what the next steps are for that. So it's kind of nice, but yeah, really appreciate the opportunity to be able to take part in the QA and triply so, quadruply so to be able to be a part of this game. It's been a joy every Wednesday that we've been able to play, and even the Wednesdays that we haven't been able to play, it's like there's something missing in my life that it's just an amazing group of people. I about said kids. Um, Amazing group of people that I get to play with on a regular basis. So a big thank you to our GM for bringing all of us together, and a big thank you to the crew for allowing me to be your helmsman, and occasionally drop the dad joke or awkward commercial from time to time.
Hey, thanks for getting us with those. We always sigh and regret it, but we loves ya.
Uh, just one small cut in there. First, for those in chat, went ahead and threw a shout out to their way, so you can check out the Overland Gamer or Joe's Twitch channel. It's fun to watch some Everspace. I know you were also playing some Fallout, and before that, you even had the Resurgence game or the Star Trek Resurgence game.
I play a wide range of stuff. Usually, it's story-driven stuff. So story-driven games, stuff like that. But yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Uh, let's see. Just two other things for our audience before we get right into you leading us off, Joe. First and foremost, one other shout out since they were kind enough to do this, do the same. The whoop, I go to all that trouble of typing out the name for the Bardic Inspiration Network and then mess up the command. Check out the Bardic Inspiration Network just while you're at it. They run a lot of D&D and other tabletop games. They're very fun to check out. I would definitely recommend them. I think they're actually running a campaign with one of our Aegis crew, or rather they were letting the Doctor and the other game run a Power Rangers based game, so that was pretty fun. Um, on one order of business for tonight, for those of you joining us live, if you have any questions, be they about the campaign, about Star Trek, about tabletop in general, or just other things that you'd want to know about, relatively germane and obviously non-TOS breaking terms of service, that is, um, feel free to drop them here in the chat. If any of you are in the Discord, then by all means go ahead and do that. I will give you a poke, Joe, if there are if there's any information that comes in on that front, and we can break from the set of questions you have as we go.
Sure.
And then one other final bit of business, now that they're able to join us. The star of our last episode of Star Trek Adventures Broken Sword, one Traven Lex, as played by Cheesy. Welcome in.
Hey,
Hey, let's
what I
see.
miss?
Just a bit of introduction, a little bit of business beforehand, and I realize I need to fix a token or two. But I'm going to do that on the fly here. So, Joe, go right ahead and get started. Also, Cheesy, your mic is coming in just a little low.
Is this better? I had to put it near my face.
Much better.
Okay.
So, take it away, Joe.
All right. Our first question of the night is one that hopefully will prevent any spoilers from getting out and ruining our beloved franchise. How caught up is everyone when it comes to the Star Trek series? We just ended with Star Trek Strange New Worlds season 2.
Yep.
And so is everybody caught up, or how far ahead is everyone?
I haven't
And-
watched any of it.
I haven't watched any either. You're welcome to
Y'all
spoil
are
it though. My
monsters.
memory is. Listen, small confession. I've only seen one Star Trek show all the way through.
Monsters.
Slander.
Well, I guess we know which one's Woe's favorite Star Trek series then.
Oh, could you guess? Could you figure it out from all the data spamming?
There's nothing wrong with that. So, I did a message from from the Intergalactic Commercial Commission. Fresh gawk. After a hard day of bringing glory to the Empire, it's nice to sit down for a cup of Earl Grey Bagol and a plate of fresh gawk. Red alert! All hands, battle stations! But those pesky Romulans keep us on our toes with conflict after conflict. If only there was a way to have a quick bite of gawk in between conflicts. Introducing Cup of Gawk, the freshest gawk with savory flavorings, all in a self-served, self-contained unit. This single-serve cup of Gok is great for warriors on the go. Just peel back the lid to unleash the freshness with our patented flavors. Flavors like stir-fry Gok, cream of the Empire Gok, Targ bone broth Gok, Glatzt and Pipis claw broth Gok, and so much more. And coming soon, Cup of Rocked. Order yours at your nearest Starbase today. We appreciate the fine folks at Cup of Gok for sending that commercial in. Our next question would go towards everyone. What is your favorite Star Trek series and why? Let's start off with our GM at the top of the list there.
Oh, you put me right on the spot. Um, so let's see. I still think that after last time, I feel like I have a very tender spot in my heart for Enterprise. Um, but besides the fact that I've done so much sort of tabletop or fan thinking for the era, um, the big thing is like I'll spare you the full length version of the answer though. For anyone that's new, the show is very different at times. The obviously consensus has been the fourth season was one of the highlights because it did so well with the real prequel concept of the show, whereas everything else just kind of very innocently gave a nod in its direction. Um, the first few seasons, there are different positive things about them, and while there are a few clunker episodes, I mean, the first two seasons you really have to consider through the frame of this is Starfleet at its least military, most exploratory. They're practically NASA with better kit. Um, maybe not the most competent officers, but that's part of the point too. Like they they're going out all fresh faced and not really uh, knowing what to expect out there, and consequently every other week Archer gets the shit kicked out of him. Um, lessons I think he learns by season 4 at the very least. And season 3, the Xindi arc, it's got its own things to recommend it. Uh, past that, I'd say that obviously holding up the trio of '90s Trek, the TNG, DS9, Voyager. Those are all very strong shows. After that, of the contemporary items, I'd say at this point, now that I've watched it, Prodigy is probably one of the strongest Treks in the new era, followed very closely by Lower Decks. They're doing very different things, of course, with the animated medium, but I like both a lot.
Very good. Next up would be Raldar.
What?
Favorite series and why?
Favorite series? Deep Space Nine. I find the whole cast very entertaining.
Kresick?
Oh, okay. This is a big can of worms you opened up here.
And nobody likes their Gok canned.
Nobody likes their Gok canned. So in a lot of ways, I'm like our GM, for slightly different reasons. While I play the oldest character, I think I might be the youngest player. So
How old are you?
26.
I'm 26.
I'm 23.
Okay, second oldest.
Damn it.
Youngest.
Wait,
Good.
who's okay.
So the only Star Trek series that was on air when I was conscious of free thought and could watch it was Enterprise. So I grew up watching that when it came out on air. I remember all of that, Xindi War and all of that. So that really holds us like a special place to me because it was the one that I grew up watching. Obviously, since then, I've watched all of Star Trek, including the animated series. And I'd have to say Deep Space Nine is also very high up on there. Probably my favorite. They had a good balance of the serialized nature, also being able to tell a coherent storyline through it all. All of the characters, the cast members were fantastic. You have all of the standout episodes, even. Um, I feel like while other series may have more memorable episodes and ones that really encapsulate Star Trek more, just the number of truly gut wrenching and emotional and meaningful episodes that Deep Space Nine was able to put in a series that was pushing the boundaries of what Star Trek was at the time, really puts it at the highest level of Star Trek series for me personally. And Voyager is the worst, and y'all can fight me on that, but yeah, that's where I stand on the best.
Sharpens knives.
Whoa, what about you?
TNG's overrated.
I mean, like, okay, I love Next Generation. Like, obviously, I do. And I have limited viewing of the others, so it's like I don't want to commit to loving only Next Generation because I only really love for Data. Like, the concept of a character who's treated as the least emotional intelligent while having the most emotional maturity. Oh my god, that shit slaps. Uh Cares the most but can't recognize it. Oh, so good. Has an evil twin brother, even fucking better. Oh my god. So yeah, it's really I just fucking love Data, and obviously every single fucking character Jeffrey Combs plays, he's fantastic. So I also love Enterprise, but uh yeah, I will just I need to stop talking now. So
You should definitely check out DS9 for the extra Jeffrey Combs there. Or Jeffrey Combs.
I've been meaning to. I think I'm like 3 episodes deep. But yeah, it's like I want to set aside time when I'm able to absorb new things, but I don't. So instead, I just rewatch old things, and so
And
yeah.
the first season is hard to digest. I can agree to that. The first season of Deep Space Nine is a challenge to get through until after you've watched the whole series once.
Yeah, I can understand that. And it's like you want to come at things with an open mind, especially when, you know, it's new. So even if you already love something, you still don't want to like put yourself up for disappointment. So yeah, I just really haven't had a chance to check out much more.
Well, and back then it was a new format for Star Trek altogether. So they were, they hadn't really like typical first season of a lot of shows where they were trying to get their feet, figure out who they were, what they were, where they were going. But yeah, they definitely picked up steam on second season on. Traven, what about you?
Mine's actually a three-way tie between Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and Lower Decks. I really,
Interesting.
I really like the romance between Tom Paris and B'Elanna in Voyager. That just really it makes my heart jump. I
Yeah.
really like it. And Janeway is my spirit animal. She can't do anything without coffee, and that's just me. And Tuvok, oh my god, in my opinion, I love Tuvok. He's the best Vulcan.
Voyager, after watching through Voyager, it would actually be on my top if they had continued with the Year of Hell episode. That's how Voyager should have looked towards the end of that series, with the ship basically falling apart and everything like that. And I know they address it slightly with replicating the plates and stuff to repair it, but the ship always looked brand new episode to episode, and that just threw me off. I think it would, and this is just nitpicking, but it would have been a little bit better had they put a little bit more detail into that. For me, DS9 is by far the best series of Trek that I enjoyed. Um, Followed up by Picard season 3. It
Barf.
that was really good.
Barf.
Um,
Heave.
only season
Vomit.
3.
Vomit even harder.
Actually, Traven Lex is heavily inspired by Neelix from Voyager because Neelix is awesome.
Nice.
I,
All
I,
right, we
I
do. I'll go ahead.
sorry to cut in there, Joe. I was just going to say I know why Voyager looks nice from week to week. That's what Lieutenant Carey was doing for like 5 years. He was in Voyager's engineering lab in Ordnance Bay. You needed a shuttlecraft, he'll build you a shuttlecraft. Voyager needs another 30 some torpedoes. He'll scrounge together the antimatter and parts for torpedoes. He stayed in a broom closet building everything up until the one day he decided, I need some fresh air. I'm going to go out on an away mission. We're retrieving an old Earth warp probe. Great. This'll look great in my collection. I'll take some pictures of it. I'm a history aficionado, and he's dead.
Yeah.
Remember when Voyager had to count their torpedoes?
Yeah.
Remember when the Year of Hell was supposed to be an entire season?
Yeah. The time.
Remember when the Borg were a real threat?
Oh, we are mashing the rage button for Rev. That's great.
Species 8472 is a bigger threat than the Borg ever were, and
That's
I'll
true.
die on that one.
Yeah.
I agree. Species 8472 was well done. But remember when the Borg were actually a threat?
The only reason why they went down so fast is because Janeway ran out of black coffee that day.
Well,
All right.
Remember when Starfleet captains didn't commit war crimes on the weekly?
Cisco committed a war crime.
On the weekly, I said.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like a lot of war crimes are committed on the weekly. I
Oh.
don't think that.
Yeah, not to troll you there, Rev, but I feel like I have to make the obligatory comment. Oh, yes, I do remember when the Borg were a threat. I believe it was season 3 of Picard.
Damn.
Remember when the Borg were well written?
All right, let's hand the wheel back to Joe there.
All right. Well, now that we got that out of the way, this is just a preview of the antics that you could catch every Wednesday night. And come on by for Star Trek Adventures Broken Sword. We've had a few questions in our chat. Most of them have to do with questions about the campaign and the adventures, which we'll get to here in just a little bit. So I want to make note that those questions have not gone unnoticed, but we really appreciate the questions that we've gotten. I do want to ask, what era of Star Trek would you like to play if a new Star Trek Adventures game was brought to you? Is there another era of Star Trek that you would like to explore? Traven, let's go ahead and start with you.
I would say Next Generation, Deep Space Nine era.
Whoa.
Honestly, Enterprise era, just because everything would be so new and fucked up. Like, why not? That'd be fun.
Betraying the Prime Directive left and right.
There isn't one at that point. I'm making up as I go along.
Yeah, not till 2172, I believe.
That was the best line of Strange New Worlds the first season. Oh, they're going to call it the Prime Directive. Oh, that'll never stick. Kresek, how about you?
I think I've said before in a previous little question and answer thing, the Lost Years. between the movies and TNG. I just feel like there's a lot of space to play in there. The border skirmishes with Cardassia, I think, would be a really interesting and in some ways rather salient area to explore in terms of Star Trek and sci-fi as a whole has always been a commentary on the world as it stands, and the border skirmishes I think could definitely tell an interesting story in that media.
Raldor?
Post Voyager, ignoring Petard existing. The series.
Mr. GM?
Oh, I would say if I if you put a game in front of me, I've maybe drifted a little. A part of me wouldn't mind something TOS type or into the movie era, something like a little more Cold War oriented. Um, if I had to pick something before that, I suppose I would also. Oh, I don't recall. My brain doesn't give me the luxury these days of pondering what I would actually want to play so much as what I want to otherwise explore. And going to Rev's point, what kind of stories I want to tell and statements I want to make, with the help of the players, of course. And I'll say there are other ideas. There are indeed whole campaigns that have been waiting for some time, but we'll have to wait a while longer because of the commitments here. But just say they're strange.
If I can, would I be possible to add a couple other options, Mr.
Same.
Isaac, sir?
Go ahead.
A couple other areas that I've really thought about and that would be very different. The eugenics wars. Just go using this system that really heavily prioritizes not combat and putting the players in that kind of a setting. And then also the sundering between the Romulans and the Vulcans is another area that I've really thought would be an interesting space to play in.
That'd be good.
I wanted to add on also a campaign where we're set in the evil Star Trek universe.
Oh, yes. Yes, please. Can we do that?
Oh.
That would
I'm
be interesting.
I'm normal about this. Let's do that.
I am not running a mirror universe campaign. I refuse.
You kind of already do.
We could do a Mirror Universe episode or two at some point.
I
I
the
can't
If you
handle it,
do,
Mopri.
Jim, if you do a mirror episode, I can do original janky. I can do original janky though.
God, Jenkins the warlord.
But he's original, so he's like, oh yeah, actually, he would be so much more competent than the one I've got going now. Jesus Christ, actually competent Jenkins. You guys don't know who I'm talking about, but he's good.
I think for me, I'd like to see from the Klingon side of things, either the build up to Praxis, which was kind of that setting that uncertainty right before Undiscovered Country, or shortly thereafter. Kind of exploring the Klingon Empire after the explosion and dealing with the fallout of some of the betrayal that was happening between the Klingons and the Federation. I think that'd be a good one. And the Starfleet Academy. has always been a fascination of mine. The hard part with that one is putting which era, because having the um like a I've played Star Trek Academy, the video game, and that's fun. That was in Kirk's time, but it'd be fun to explore next gen Starfleet Academy as well. So it I think those two would be fun. But yeah. Next question. Um, what race in the Star Trek universe would you like to explore beyond the one that you currently play? Um, let's start. Mr. GM, is there a race that you would like to actually play instead of being the every person uh, that you get to be every week for being a GM?
Well, I suppose at least part of that question is dependent on the era. I have had I've had some idle conversations with one person in particular for a game that they've been talking about, the details of which I won't mention now. I'm just going to say the our friends over at the Architects of Fate have a very fun set of ideas. Um, but it did get me thinking of one possibility of a TNG style Ferengi that grew up in a traditional era, but wasn't so much traditional as they were kind of a maybe someone who didn't necessarily care about the times, was just more of a I'd kind of think of them as more a liquidator type, um, and someone that you know somebody who didn't really have a code beyond the Latinum, but not even truly the rules of acquisition serving as a code, more just basically a cell sword or cell phaser, as the case may be. Um, and they might be they're an old bird who just kind of has to roll with the punches, adapt to a new system, and kind of exploring what happens when somebody a little crusty goes into a like has to deal with change, but not necessarily is toxic or super traditionalist about it.
Alder, what about you?
Mm, mm, mm. Sure. That's all you get.
It's hard to decide. This is one of those questions that I almost nixed because it's such a difficult one. Kresic.
Um, I have always been a fan of your less explored races. Um, so probably, I mean, that's part of the reason why I brought our Riemann friend along as my secondary character. It was actually between a Riemann and a Cardassian. Um, and our benevolent GM decided to allow a Riemann, which I'm not complaining about. Um, but I definitely like them. Romulans as well. I feel like they are under of all the two-dimensional races in Star Trek. They're the ones that have gotten the two-dimensional beat stick the most recently. Picard, and
Hard agree.
Yeah.
and I feel like again, that's what I really liked about Deep Space Nine's portrayal of the Romulans is that you got that much more rounded idea of who they are as a race, what they're doing, why they're doing it. So honestly, playing a Romulan has always been something that has appealed to me personally.
they built up potential with the Picard, Spock, Romulan story arc in Next Gen, and it felt like they just fell short with it.
As expected.
Yeah. And the Section 31 episode with the Romulan Senate in Deep Space Nine was just, it was so well done, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yep.
To take this race that, whereas the Klingons had such a mythos built around them already because Michael Dorn was very passionate about it and fought for it, the Romulans had not had that. And to give them that, and even with all of its foibles and faults, even Nemesis played along a lot of those similar lines and ideas about the Romulan people as a whole. I have a lot of faults with Nemesis, but I feel like they at least were trying to do something with the Romulans, and make them into something a bit more of a real people instead of generic forehead alien number 500 who got reused a lot because they were easy.
I will say, I think, and granted, this is playing devil's advocate. I think Picard season 1 tried, but the writers and directors, you could tell that they were just doing a job, and they didn't have a passion for the material or the history of the universe they were in, as opposed to season 3, where you have Metalis, who absolutely loved Next Gen, loved the crew, loved the history, and brought so much of that into each episode. I think if we had somebody, writers and stuff that had a little bit more passion with season 1, where they were kind of highlighting some of the Romulan stuff, I think it would have been a heck of a lot better. Because I agree. The Romulans are definitely one, and even in Star Trek Adventures, whenever I mention, are we going to get a Romulan core book? Jim Johnson and some of the other writers for there said there's just not enough lore for them. So
Yeah, I think they said at most we'll get a splat book, which I wouldn't be complaining. Anything to, like, I don't think they need a core book either. Like, that's the Klingons, but between our two core rule books that we have, the rules I think are pretty well set, and I think you could use a lot of the Klingon stuff in terms of general rule set and ideas in a Romulan campaign. But I think the main thing would just be a splat book to help adapt it instead of a separate core rule book. But that's my 2 cents.
yeah.
And there it is.
I think that's a solid take.
Well, what about you?
So, like, right off the bat, just for characters I haven't played, I wouldn't mind playing a Ferengi, or an Andorian, just because one, I haven't played either of them, and two, it would just be more fun, like just a little bit of fun. I don't really have any real reason other than I think doing the voice work would be fun. But my favorite remains to be a reformed Borg, like hands down. I didn't get enough time with my original character, which is what I base all the characters I named Jenkins after. I just love him so much. But yeah, that's it.
Jenkins sounds like my half orc thunk that I always run. Traven, what about you?
I have three characters that I've like always had in mind and wanted to play. The first one would be Ferengi, of course, because Ferengis are awesome. The second is a Orion male, because I feel like that would be kind of funny to role play in like Starfleet or even Starfleet Academy. And then the last one's a little weird. I want to role play a Vidian with the Phage and just trying to survive every day.
Well, that'd be fun. The Hirogen would definitely be one that I'd like to play.
True.
Especially the Hirogen against the Klingons. We know the Klingons would still dominate, but that's just because the Klingon. I'm biased. Um, Speaking of the core books, take this opportunity to mention the Modifius website and all the goodies that they have for Star Trek Adventures over there. They have the two starter sets. You can get the next gen starter set and the original series starter set. They've also got division books. So you've got your the what is it? Science, engineering, security, and command division books. They've got the quadrant books, Shackleton Expanse book, which is a huge adventure book for them. The the I'm think help me out, GM, the ship book. Um,
Utopia Planitia.
Thank you, thank you.
It's a very pretty
The
book.
Yeah. Even for Star Trek collectors, the Utopia Planitia book is absolutely fantastic because it goes through some of the ships. Not only can you found and statted out for Star Trek Adventures that you've seen all across canon, but also they've also brought in some of the stuff from Star Trek Online, which is really kind of neat about this game. You can get crew packs, so if you want to play your favorite Lower Decks, Enterprise, Star Trek TOS, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Picard, crew, then you can print those off and play those in your next Star Trek adventures. Modifius also has the Fallout franchise, Fallout 2D20, Dreams and Machines. They've got Dune, a couple other TTRPGs and miniature games. So definitely want to check them out. Without them, we'd probably be playing Star Trek. What was the first one? Star Trek. It was based off the D20 system, the D&D system. So, which would still be fun because our GM's leading us there. We did have our captain pipe in. So, Mr. Captain, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sorry, I'm a little on the tardy side. I've been dealing with airplanes since 6 o'clock this morning. So,
I'm just delighted to have you here. It was an unexpected treat.
well, that's me, an unexpected treat.
Delicious.
Ooh, I'm introducing myself. Okay, name's Sean Froelich. Live in Florida. That was fun. I'm a game designer and writer and artist and all the rest of that fun stuff. I have my own D20 imprint. I only have 2 things up there at the moment because I've been busy working on my own version of the D20 system. There, is that good?
That does it.
Okay, good. Got all of the major things out of the way. Hi, everybody. Sorry,
All good.
tardy.
We missed
All right.
you.
I missed you
Hello,
guys too.
baby.
I had a lot of fun with the kids, but I missed all of you guys too.
Since our last Q&A, we've gone through some pretty interesting hijinks. We've seen a great story arc. The I can't remember what you called it, but it was something about the death and rise of Traven Lex, which was great.
That was really fun.
It was absolutely fantastic, and I really hope that our GM fleshes that out to be at least presented to the fine folks at Modifius to be published, because I think it'd be really good. There, we also saw a couple of smaller episodes with the hijinks like we had last week with us playing kind of lower deck style characters, which was fun. What has been
PC's
something that the players have enjoyed through this break that has away from the main campaign, that really stood out as kind of a really cool moment for us? Let's start at the bottom with Traven.
Okay, hold on. Say that question one more time. My brain shut off.
What about the last, since our last Q&A session, basically the last few sessions that we've had really stuck out to you as like a memorable moment, or a memorable event, storyline, that kind of thing. Not part of the main campaign, so the side campaign stuff.
I think the best part for me was seeing all the players and the range of their roleplay capabilities. Like, it's just really cool to see all the players just on a dime switch into these new characters that they kind of don't know anything about, but use their imagination and the way they roleplay to really fill in all the juice, if that makes any sense.
What do you mean? I don't know.
Whoa, what about you?
Give me a second, please. All the shit I think of is main stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think that it'd be. I mean, I don't. We've only done a very limited bit with the Their Fatal Greeting limited run campaign, and for good reason.
Oh,
So
okay. I will say there's two things. I do want to it's technically part of the original main campaign, but it's kind of a side shoot. Uh one of my favorite things with that was the role play between Rev and Traven during his like drug-induced memory state as Kresic and his wife. That shit hurted real bad. I was almost crying. Um really
Only
good stuff.
almost, only
I was
almost.
flat
Oh
out
God,
crying.
I was.
Um
That was just absolutely amazing.
oh, that was a huge gut punch. Just the description of the hand on his face, it was so much. Um but like for side stuff, I will say Peter joining us on the Fatal Greeting campaign was really fun. Like that was I loved that.
I'm
And
gonna have
obviously I love you guys showing up. It's fantastic.
I'm
But
gonna
it
have to check the archive for that one because I missed that one and I'm like,
oh
damn.
oh no, Peter is great. We play together in the campaign that I first joined of Zach's. And so that was really fun seeing them there with you guys. And so I hope that happens more often because the dynamic between everyone has been really fun to see.
yeah, I will say for those of you that are interested in seeing our the special guest player from last week, Luckless Panda, and more, uh, he plays the captain of the starship Aegis, Lillian Sharp. So by all means, feel free to join us for those games on Saturdays. Not this Saturday, mind you, but you can keep up with our schedule on the Discord, the socials, all of that sort of thing. But I digress.
Kresic, what about you?
Um, honestly, I, as much as I've loved listening to them and catching up on them, I feel like I've been pretty absent with these side missions, um, through sickness and crazy schedules and stuff. Um, but I think I would agree with what Traven has said. Just being able to watch everybody jump into these very different characters' shoes, from what they've been playing, and even if they have multiple characters, if they have those secondary characters that they're playing as well, um, just characters that are completely different from that, and just falling into the groove and playing this person and seeing them interact with each other and with our one pre-existing character that's tied it all through, Traven. I think it's been really awesome to see the abilities and skill of everyone in this story.
Raldar.
Hmm. And we'll be honest, the entire reason I did Dennis is because I wanted to do a funny voice. That's it.
I will let you know if it makes you feel really good. I started mimicking that voice to my mom, and I was just walking around going, "Oh, but I don't wanna. Oh,
It's so hard.
everything's so hard. I don't want to make dinner."
Pretty sure I would not be alive, no matter what my age, if I did that to my mother.
Oh.
I
Captain
appreciate
Ca-
that.
Captain Tabak, how about you?
It's just going to sound like I'm being repetitive, but yeah, I mean, just watching everybody take on the lives of Traven Lex and bring them to the fore, so everybody can, especially Traven, so Cheesy can see who he used to be. It sounds like we're tooting our own horns, but I think we've done good. Um, and definitely that scene with Kresic running his memory through was like, it really was heart wrenching. Oh my god! I mean, I had to turn my mic off. Okay.
Yeah, there's a reason I'm always on mute.
Yeah, that was just absolutely amazingly well, and I couldn't believe that that was 100% ad libbed, wasn't it?
It was done on the spot, like 20 minutes before I shot Traven a message. I was like, "Hey, you want to play my wife?"
Yeah, that was just absolutely one of the most brilliant bits of role play I have ever been a part of. And I'm old. Like, I've been doing RPGs for this year. It's 41 years I've been playing RPGs. This is the best I have ever seen.
I remember getting that little synopsis of him and his wife's relationship, and I was like, "Oh, okay, so we're gonna hurt everybody's feelings today."
Oh yeah, you did a good job.
Suffer.
You nailed the assignment, bro.
You nailed the assignment and all of our hearts, you bastard.
You
I
gotta
appreciate you
remind-
helping with that.
Everyone's got to remember that tragedy is a word in drama.
Yes, it is.
Kresic, that's where our bromance just kind of blossomed.
Sure.
Mr. GM, what about you? What's been your highlight of these little side stories?
Well, so first and foremost, I do have to pick up on one thing that Raldar was saying, or rather, I'm metaphorically breaking out the finger puppets here. Did somebody say something about talking in funny voices? I don't think we should be out here right now. We are needed for the introductory videos anyway. Oh, quite right there, sir. But hey,
Stolen.
I think we've
No!
angered the green scaly one. You don't want to do that. Right, let's get back to it then.
Oh god, the GM's finally snapped. He's having conversations with himself in his various altered persona.
Right. Yeah, quite right. Enough of that. But both of you.
That's literally every time we see the GM. That's what he.
Okay, yeah, I mean, point taken, but now it just seems like he's going right over the deep end.
Yeah.
He has passed beyond the event horizon.
Both of you get out of here. I don't need to see at least one of you until next week. Okay. Righto, sirs. See you on Saturday. Okay.
Why did that sound like Crichton from Red Dwarf?
Well,
Oh my god, yes! I thought I was going crazy.
That sounded exactly like Crichton from Red Dwarf.
It just so happens, Sean, that Ensign Crichton, the communications officer of the Aegis, was directly inspired, at least in terms of the voice, by that very Crichton. As a matter of fact, way back at deep GM lore bit, back in the day, high school through college days, I used to be a competitive public speaker, and one year I crafted an interpretive program that was based on basically the premise of um, like the harm of what happens when we twist faith to the ends of politics and violence. And as part of that program, I used the episode of Red Dwarf where um, they had the wax droids of good and evil fighting against each other. So I got quite a bit of practice introducing different historical figures like Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, and the like.
Wow, you even have his pronunciations. That's phenomenal.
It's quite it fits like a glove now. It was also actually a character that I adapted to a Benzite individual.
Oh God.
Yep, that was in a campaign of 4 years?
This question comes from our chat, VKM Spooge. Spouge? Sponge. I don't know. Anyway, this is the question for the GM. Was there one thing the players did that you were utterly unprepared for?
That's a good question, and I have to say, first and foremost, welcome Taco3469. I will have to tell you that you might. I think that you've actually created exactly that situation. It is chat that has done it first, simply by nature of redeeming and increase the difficulty spend in the Q&A session. You have made answering this question more difficult. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I don't think I don't think anyone's rolling dice, but I will try to answer that question now as the difficulty's increased and my brain just fogs up.
Taco, my cockfighting partner.
Oh dear, oh dear. Context.
You know, when I was very disappointed when I found out that cockfighting was just chickens. 3 years of training.
I'm very disappointed right now.
Oh.
3 years of training wasted.
Oh.
I will let you know it didn't involve chickens.
Oh.
Only 3 years? No.
That's a lot of broken 2x4s.
God damn it.
I may
All
in
of
the
you.
past few weeks, I may have been fucking with some VTubers, and that's how I met this.
Okay. So
Poor choice of words.
it's funny that you ask this question, Joe, and it's funny that that question is posed at right at this time. Which Craig, if you're still in the chat, hey, see you not this Saturday but next. That is our tactical officer from the Aegis game. But all that said, I mean, in this campaign, I would say that I've been some of the moments I've been least prepared for in some ways have been the way complications have set up and thinking of ways as far as how to make things so much more messy. We might have blown up a space station in episode 6 because of that. Actually, no, that was episode 8, I think. We've had actually no, we've only done like really technically 3 episodes.
A while ago,
4,
just
4
a
episodes,
while ago.
Yeah. So yeah, a space station might have gotten blown up because of that. There were ways I thought situations might go in the past where it didn't quite come that way. Honestly, I think that, well, I don't know. It's very hard to say exactly like when those moments came up. There are definitely times where the GM has felt a little out of control of the game, and I think that has often come out for the best. If nothing else, it's been funny, and that's what matters, I think, at the end of the day. But otherwise, like, I couldn't pinpoint much else in particular. I honestly, I'm a big fan of the collaborative approach to the narrative. So, you know, when complications come up or when tasks go unexpectedly well, I like to bring in the players to help shape the narrative. Like, I'm particularly keen to see what some people do with things. We've already bandied it about enough, but I would also say some of the moments of intense role play were things that I was not fully prepared for. I'd say everybody has had really good moments over the course of the campaign. Certainly, the aforementioned scene with Rev and Cheesy there was quite good, but everybody has had some very standout moments across the campaign, and I'm just consider myself so lucky. Even if I feel like now I have to juggle a bit and make things look better.
So, were you prepared when Tabok deployed my son on civilian targets?
That was a little. I was expecting you to do more of a dungeon crawler sort of thing, or maybe learn that maybe the Creel weren't necessarily there illegally, or there was more to that story before the freighter arrived. But
No, we nailed that one. I was so happy when Sean had the same brain cell moment as me and made that call.
yeah,
We are a crappy, ancient, beat up ship. We cannot afford to think inside of boxes. We
That's
have resources.
You heard it.
We just
We cannot afford to think at all.
that's fair.
Think once, I didn't think twice.
dude, we took out a D5, or was it a D6?
It was a D6.
We took out a D6 with floating photon torpedoes. Okay,
Without even getting damaged.
Hey, the power of no skull. We fucked it up. We did it.
we blew the damn thing up, and then the other ship showed up, going, "Ow, we're broken too!" And we went, "Fuck it," and left.
Bye!
That
Neener,
was
neener, neener.
we had to think so far out of the box just to survive so far. Oh my god.
Yeah, I gotta ask, were you expecting Tabok to just blast the captain of that D6?
I was so I will say I was expecting that to be a choice, but it was more a question of whether. Uh, honestly, I wasn't expecting maybe as quick an escalation. So that was just to check the playlist. The 4 episodes we've had since the last Q&A, we had the prospect of violence. That was the asteroid, or the one with the asteroid and the Creel, the dilithium thing. Iwudil Rockpo. That was the episode set on the. That was the one set on the planet where you had to pick up your passenger.
Mhm.
And then Lolach Be Pach Nguvwi. That was the one in the nebula and with the D6, and then of course the life and death of Trapelix.
2d6.
There's only one D6.
Well, another one showed up at the end.
That was a different type of battle cruiser. It was a house vessel.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
My bird can only handle so many D's.
Yep. God damn it. Anyway,
My dude.
I mean, where we accidentally blew up the space station, we were using the ship as a transporter bomber to get rid of the guys who were around the bar that we were holding.
I forgot we did that. I'm so proud of that.
I have to say I did not expect that Croker would be the one to have the highest body count at the end of the season.
I forgot that too. I love them. They're so good at their job.
And that's an example of the complications creating those narrative curveballs.
But yeah, I mean, that was us being forced to think outside of the box. And like breaking the box on the way out into tiny little pieces, putting them into the targ pen, and then scooping them out and throwing them out with the poop later on when we thought about it. That was we have our resources are so limited, and you throw us up against such, I'm not going to say insurmountable odds, because apparently we surmounted them, but against really long odds. And the
Oh yeah,
It's
dude, we
asymmetric
surmounted them
warfare.
so hard.
It's asymmetric every time.
Absolutely. And we're even hampered even more by the fact that Roll20 die roller is weighted towards the top end for people who play D20 games. So, we have entire streaks where he's like, okay, roll. I didn't get any, but I got 3 complications.
For those unaware, who might be listening that don't know, Star Trek Adventures is a roll low system, so you don't want to be rolling your natural 20s like you do in like D&D or Pathfinder or anything like that. You want to be rolling those 1s or 2s, which can really throw your regular dice off. And yeah, some of those die rollers are definitely weighted wrong for that. So It's definitely a fun twist in the game system. This question, we got a couple questions sent in from one of our players. I'll leave you to guess as to who. But our Captain, this one's for you.
Oh dear.
Who does Tabok consider his closest friend on the ship? And who are you most weary of?
Weary or wary?
Wary, darling, wary.
Those are two different questions. Who does Tabok think is his best buddy on board the ship right now? I really don't know if I want to answer that, but I will. I think Tabok thinks Raldar is probably his best buddy on the ship simply because of their shared engineering background and the fact that Raldar was there to help put the ship back together.
Yay!
He also, sorry to say this, Raldar, he also doesn't think Raldar is ambitious enough to want to kill him.
Also fair.
Everybody else on board that ship, everybody on board that ship could quite easily remove Tabok from his position. We still haven't gotten around to however we can do character advancement and make my fighting skills a little bit better, but I don't think we've really had the time to go through a training regimen on board the ship. Things have been coming at us fairly hot and heavy. He really does like Woe. He's liked Woe from the very beginning. When she was jumped by some dude on that crappy planet in like the very first couple of sessions, and she basically just reached down, grabbed his nutsack, and gave it a twist. He thought that was hilarious.
I forgot she did that.
Yeah, that was. He likes Kresic, although Kresic is not the pragmatist that he had hoped for. Especially when Kresic got really upset about not only Junior being on board the ship, but Junior being deployed as a biological weapon.
Real shame there. Real shame.
Yeah, he was very upset about that, and Tabok was probably hoping for more pragmatism. I will not get into what Tabok thinks of Procure.
Speaking of
Oh, we're
weary,
so curious. We have no idea how you feel about him.
Disturbed. Let's put it that way. Tabok is disturbed by Procure. If it's not the weird little Betty hologram personality thing showing up, it's his. See, the way Tabok sees it, it's just his absurd obsequiousness towards Tabok, because Tabok is, I don't know how to say this without possibly being offensive. Tabok is the ultimate straight man. He's just trying to get the job done, and the advances that Krokor is making towards him simply don't necessarily compute to Tabok.
You pin Crooker against whatever surface all the time, trying to be intimidating. How is he supposed to fucking interpret that?
Like a Klingon.
Um,
It's just Klingon aggression.
that's sort of like never mind. Moving along.
I mean, if you start throwing things at him, Croker might start reading love poetry and dodging.
I mean, come on now. One man's fist isn't, well, never mind. We're not going down that road.
Goddamn.
Yeah,
Nope.
no, we're not talking about fists right now.
I realize, okay.
Next question goes to Rev. Is Kresic genuinely afraid for his life of being found by those looking for him, or is it fear his work will be lost?
That is a fantastic question. Without getting into too much about it, let's just say that there is definitely some genuine fear there. He is the only person, as far as he's aware, anyways, that does maintain the work that he has made. But there's also definitely a guilt and regret of the work that he has done in the past that really motivates him to stay off of the radar from anybody who might be looking into who he is and what he's done and the people that are potentially looking for him.
Very good. I'm interested to see how that plays out. Cheesy. Now that Traven is back from the dead and has had so much to deal with, so much reflection on yourself and bonding with the Lex family, is there anything that he may want to do to ensure that that bond remains intact?
Yes. So there's a lot of rituals, and there are meditations that Trill can do to connect with their symbiotes more. So every day he's going to be meditating before he goes to sleep. He meditates when he wakes up, so that way he can connect with the lives in his symbiotes. So he can basically just keep that connection going throughout his life and make sure it stays strong.
To Caligo,
Oh boy.
does Raldar seek out Kresic for clean water and good company when the soft skins are being annoying?
Absolutely not.
What the fuck?
Just say it
I
with
agree.
the word.
I agree. No, I completely am on board with that because
Okay.
Kresik has very strong opinions on Raldar.
Same thing with fucking Raldar.
What is going on in the Gorn community over here?
They are absolutely not friends.
Wow.
Fuck. That's so
Like,
sad.
I feel like there is a bit of a mutual respect that, like, yeah, we're tougher than these Klingons, but that's about where it stops.
Their reasons will become very obvious later.
Yeah. The one moment I can remember where there was like something resembling amiable interaction was back during the prospect of violence after both of you had learned that the captain had deployed the mutated clone of Raldar to the station without letting either of you know, and the moment of just like the intense anger that both of them were feeling, and perhaps that momentary hint of a threat towards the captain.
I felt like there's a very good chance the captain may have been turned into a wishbone. That
You know, the
Yeah, but
captain
because-
kinda, the captain
because I
kinda
feel
had
like-
that reaction too when both of the Gorn were that pissed off at him, and he was kind of like going to himself, "Well, this will get me into Stovakar."
I feel like we were both very angry and very like understandably angry, but for completely different reasons, and that
Oh,
made it
yeah.
even funnier.
yes.
And it's like you can tell when the Gorn are pissed off when they stop moving and just stare at you.
Yeah. Record scratch. Yep, that's me. Bet you're wondering how I got here.
And then they show the corpse hung up in the park pit room with the guts removed.
I like the record scratch, but it's really just like you have two Gorn staring at you. But my fucking thumb was in your mouth like that game. I'm pretty sure it's gonna kill you.
Oh yeah.
There was a whole third different reason you were gonna die.
I don't know why, but he was far less concerned about you murdering him and much more concerned that the Gorn were going to turn him into a tarp.
Well, because I'm sweet as hell.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you are, and for some reason, as such a towering monstrosity of bone, muscle, flesh, and claws, you don't like killing.
Also,
Uh,
So,
sad.
so he was much more worried about, you know, oh dear, they're going to turn me into a belt.
so to be fair, that episode, Woe also did about as much damage to the Yon as she did to the asteroid station after the situation in the transporter room.
Yeah.
I was on a roll that game.
Yep.
I can't wait to resolve that plotline.
Yeah, there's got to be some feelings. Will this promote feelings or feelings?
So this question was actually directed to everybody, but I'm going to direct it straight to our GM and to a specific character, Vopri. What shipmate does does Vopri want to interact with more?
That's a very good question. So I think at this point, it's worth speaking a little bit to the history involved. One of the things when I came to the idea of running the Broken Sword campaign, I didn't just want to touch on the diversity between Klingons, which, as anyone who's watched, there's pretty considerable like references to the dynamics between Kohach, the flat four-headed Klingon, such as the captain, and those that are more in the TOS era. The Hemhuch, the Klingons of the that we're more familiar with from like the Next Generation onward, up through Enterprise. Who have the more traditional ridged forehead look, and then what I've taken to referring to as the Kulchawi, the Discovery, like Klingons from at least Star Trek Discovery. Obviously, Strange New Worlds is leaning more into the Hemhuch look. Um,
I really wish they would bring those, all the different flavors of Klingon back in Strange
yeah,
New
yeah.
Worlds.
Well, I mean, that was part of the reason that I made a conscious effort to make that an inclusive space for them, because I think that what Discovery didn't quite give us, it sets up some interesting dynamics, and there's like stories that could be told but weren't. Um, in no small part, I think, because of the crucial mistake of going to the mirror universe um, for no goddamn reason whatsoever. Um, anyway, the the point was like I wanted obviously to showcase some of the differences in the Empire and like cleavages that come with that, and I want to try and do more of that in the next season and all those that follow. Um, but I also wanted the opportunity to explore the conquered peoples of the Empire. Because the Klingons, they haven't just obviously been spreading out to empty worlds and colonizing them. They haven't been bringing in member states the way the Federation does. They have been an empire, and they have done it like they have done and terrible things to people and continue to do so. And Vopri is one of those who comes from that line. The Rantal, one of the conquered peoples that I pulled from the books. So he's still, I think, still somewhat anxious around some of the Klingons, or certainly authority figures. He's obviously he still has bits of baggage. The closest he's warmed up to at least a Klingon in general, and really most of the crew would probably be Azek at this point. There's, yeah, it'll take work, but I'd say that's the most advantage on the basically that track would still be with Azek. Other than that, Voprise, I'm maybe a bit with Woe, although like he would at least feel a little more comfortable there. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know that Vopri has a whole terrible lot of comfort with the rest of the crew. I'll take that back. Kresik would probably also be at least a tolerable level, because even though he's an imposing individual, he's showcased a great deal of care um, with his people. But otherwise, Vopri doesn't know enough and doesn't trust that there isn't the threat of violence or like of harm lurking with everyone else, basically. So that's that.
Really? Really? He's that worried? The captain gave him his freedom, made him an honored member of the crew.
I mean, uh, he has probably gone through a few masters in his life, and he's still kind of just a little bit tentative. He's those some of those habits take time to work out. I'm sure that with a bit more time, Vopri would be more trusting of others.
I don't know, man. Like, if the race that enslaved me, like, was like, you're free, you can do whatever you want, but I had no prospects, I wouldn't exactly still feel free. I'd still have to keep working for them. So it wouldn't until got a couple paychecks and could actually prove that I could leave that it would feel like anything. So I totally understand his point of
Yeah.
view there.
Yeah, okay, I got you on that.
And even then, like if Vopri had the inclination to go somewhere, even if he knew a place that he could go, like every world he's going to stop off on is going to be a Klingon world, and conquered peoples treated like dirt pretty consistently doesn't necessarily see a guaranteed way off. It's kind of like one tenuous situation to another. So
Yeah,
that I mean,
yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
yeah, in the stretch of the first season and that in the time that's taken place there, you know, he's at least recognized the status quo is as stable as it's going to be. I mean, he's pretty consistently under fire, as is the ship. Like there are all manner of other problems that's going to grow up, but you know, it's a slow burn. But over time, he could be more trusting.
Someday we'll learn Vopri's tragic backstory.
And then forget about it in 5 minutes.
Oh,
In character.
yeah, okay, I got you.
Well, what's something about your character that you'd like to explore that we haven't yet? Maybe a challenge that they face, or besides hairballs and height issues in the ship.
First off, how dare you assume that she has hairballs? Only one time did she ever lick herself ever.
I've cleaned the
But-
air ducts. I know how much Azek has cleaned the air ducts. He knows how much hair gets thrown.
Loose hair in the air ducts and hairballs are two totally different things. Don't even start with me. Yeah, there are some things I did want to explore with her. But I don't want to go too deep into them. I definitely do want to explore her sense of loyalty to the crew. And I kind of want to see that tested a little bit. Because she fell in very quickly and pretty much like decided, like the captain, this dude is it. Like, I'm not going to stray from this. I feel happy and healthy here. And then we slowly watched her get into a depressive decline and start to threaten him a little bit. Even though we all know nothing bad was going to happen, it's still like, huh, okay, maybe she's not as loyal to him as we thought. But I do want to see her interact with the crew more, because she's been kind of a hermit recently. They all kind of have. We're all pretty set in our stations. It doesn't help that we're a pretty small crew, so we kind of have to be. I don't know. I just want them to bond more. And I want Woe to bond more.
Woe needs a father figure.
Oh God, Woe does kind of need a father figure.
I am,
Shame
not,
on
gonna be-
you.
I am not going to be Woe's daddy.
I am the father
Oh
figure.
no, get lost. Yes, Kresic is the father figure. God damn,
117.
leave.
I've been around.
117. You know.
So the next time we're at Space Dock, Azek needs to request some super glue to bond everybody together better.
Oh,
Exactly, yeah.
I had
Yeah,
to throw
I'm
a
sorry,
dad
it takes-
joke in there.
It takes two hands to use super glue. Let me just say that.
Yeah, you have little faith.
I'm also going to. I'll cut in with the brief. Tabak did not have the most rigorous interview process for WoW.
No, it was basically just, well, she's very capable, and it
Yep.
was funny how she took that guy out. Hey, you need a job?
Yep.
It
So
And
was employment at first type.
pissed off the current captain.
yep.
Yeah, and it pissed off the old captain.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
as a particular famous phrase of late goes, we may yet one day see the finding out phase.
Oh, we're FAFO is gonna happen.
Yep.
FAFO.
Yep.
We've been doing the FA, so we're gonna find out. Okay, cool. I like that.
I mean, you
So,
found out plenty in smaller situations. But go ahead, Joe.
Yep.
Raldar, how are you genuinely handling having a child or having a son?
Clearly, like any other Klingon parent, except I have to use a bigger stick.
Yeah, it's called a pain stick.
Ah.
It's called a pain stick.
Yeah, I had to build one.
Is there going to be a point where you're going to be overly protective of it, or because of the size difference and the brute difference, of course, are you going to be less likely to throw him into dangerous situations?
Mm, mm. On one hand, he could be useful. On the other hand, he's stupid, and if he's in an uncontained area, I don't want him to get loose. I don't want to get loose and get wild.
Bro, get some hooked on phonics and fix this shit. This is not that hard.
I know. No. We gotta put a tracking device in him at some point.
You
Just
can't
for
We
use
haven't. We haven't already. Oh my god.
can't use hooked on phonics on Gorn. It's just how many S's and Z's can you put in a single sound?
You can go to any gay bar and like find out for yourself, dude. Come on now.
I will not touch that statement with a 10-meter cattle prod.
Traven,
You
after
couldn't if you tried.
after years of slavery as a cook, is there something else you'd be looking to pursue as far as a career goes, or maybe tapping into one of your other host skills that you might be interested in trying out?
After combining with the host, Traven has a new sense of confidence. He actually, when he was in school, was very, very good at science, but he's never applied himself because of the complications that could happen if you mess up in a science lab or mess up. Basically, anytime you do science, if you mess up, it could be really bad. So he's always strayed away from it and stuck with cooking. But now that he is more confident, he's going to try and apply his sciences more towards the crew.
Now we've all had our moments of shine when it comes to role playing, but I think I don't know, for me anyway, Rev has had some moments where it's just like you just have to step back and I mean Oscar winning a performance on some of this stuff. Where does that come from? Do you have like improv training at all, or is that just a natural talent when it comes to bringing Kresic alive?
Um, that's a good question. So I do public speaking as like a side job a bit, so I'm used to doing that. I don't have any like formal improv training, but I mean I've been GMing since I was 8. And just lots of trial and error, lots of figuring out what works and what doesn't, and throwing it at the other players and seeing how it sticks. If it sticks, if it doesn't, like I also had to kind of give up caring about other people's opinions on it. That might sound a little weird, but it's just like at the end of the day, I'm here to role play and have a fun time. And so I don't necessarily do these things and bring this character to life to have these moments. I do it to embody who the character is. And if it hits, great. And I'm always pleased when it does, but at the same time, like, if it doesn't, and if it just kind of stilts out and washes out, then I'm okay with that too, because I've taken the character and done what I wanted to do with him, and that's enough for me. I don't know if that's a good answer. I've always enjoyed embodying characters and getting into the headspace and figuring out, their motivations and why they're doing things, and then coming up with what their reactions and what their choices might be.
I can definitely say it's been an inspiration for my own role playing outside of the game. So it's absolutely fantastic. All of you have been an inspiration when it comes to this stuff, but you just have some of those moments where it's like, whoa.
And I feel like that's the other thing, is that, like, I can only go to those places if I have the help of other people. And it's like the Traven scene with the two of us. Like, I couldn't have done that without Traven's help. My threat against the governor's little stool on the planet, I couldn't have done that if our GM hadn't built him and portrayed him as such a little terrible toad of a human being, or as a Klingon being. So a lot of it too is just me playing off of what you all fantastic role players are giving me, and figuring out how to not just bounce off of that, but then constructively amplify it into something more.
This one goes to Tabak. Does Tabak really believe he can restore his house honor, or has he resigned himself to a life of piracy, gawk pockets, and being hit on by Croker?
Tabak will never consider gawk pockets to be anything other than disgusting. um, he's not trying to restore his family's honor. His family hasn't had any problems with honor. His family's had problems with economics. His family's always behaved honorably. He's just trying to save his family's fortunes. He's just simply finding it more and more difficult to do so in what he considers a properly Klingon honorable fashion. And to be honest, it's starting to depress him.
Sad.
Yeah, I mean, he's just trying to keep his family above board, keep them floating. You know what I mean? He's got
never mind.
he's got, I mean, he has a daughter who's of marrying age, who, oddly enough, being born of two Klingons, doesn't have the flat forehead. So trying to find a mate for his daughter is like one of those things that's up there on his list of necessary things to do. Get her an honorable match. And so he's trying his best. And from his point of view, not doing a really good job of it. He's
I would once again. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, he's captain, but he's only captain because this crew lets him be captain.
None of us have that vibe.
No, I understand that, but Tabak still is like he's about 80% secure in his captaincy. But the part for him is he knows that at any minute, anyone, maybe even Vopri, for all I know, could probably take him on and become the new captain. His skills as a warrior are bare minimal. I mean, even with his training in the Mek'leth, and because that was drilled into him by his forefathers, you need to have some kind of skill. He still sucks. He's good at fixing ships, good at building ships. He's an engineer at heart. He lived on ships for a long time and watched as his family, his foresires, just were crappy businessmen and drunkards and basically just lost the entire family fortune. So he's a little crabby and doesn't like being pushed to this hairy edge at which he finds himself by circumstance. So he's trying. He just doesn't think he's doing a good enough job.
This
I
poor
know.
man. I feel so much worse for Tabog now. God damn it.
I would once
know-
again like to request to visit the cat farm.
That's only one of the things, but yeah, okay.
I know from a role play aspect. I know you'd have an arm up on Azek, but Azek has the I think he has the confidence to be captain, but because of how you portray the captain, Azek has so much respect for you, not just the seat of captain, which he carries a great deal for. All joking aside and stuff like that, he carries a great deal for the seat, but he also carries a great deal for Tabak. Part of the reason why I kind of joke about the whole captain thing, and he instantly steps down when you show up, is because Azek knows that he's got so much to learn when it comes to being command, or the rules of command and engagement and stuff like that. So it's something that you role play very well, and it's something that it has been an absolute pleasure to bounce off of as a con officer. So it's been great.
I still sometimes feel like I'm like hogging the spotlight,
I've
So
been in a
Like,
lot of campaigns, but and I've seen a lot of lead roles. You handle the lead role really well with trying to make sure everybody else gets time before you start doing your full thing, and that's something to be applauded for.
I mean, I've been playing the game, RPGs for 41 years and been a GM for more than half of that. And it's just one of those things. As a GM, I try really hard to make sure all of my players get their time in the spotlight. I'm not GMing this, but I still don't want to feel like I'm the one that, I just want to make sure everybody else has fun,
Well,
We
and
get into that.
that's
Go
kind
ahead.
of the nature of Star Trek Adventures too, because unless we're on, granted, our ship isn't necessarily a run of the mill military vessel where you've got that strict structure, but like you would have on, say, a Federation ship. But we still have a decent structure, and we still have that command structure. And so having somebody who does take a little bit more command is great. But yeah, like they were saying, it's like you balance it out really well, and it's really appreciated, from a player standpoint, and I'm sure from a listener standpoint too. I don't know how our GM feels about it, but I'm sure that they appreciate it too.
I'm all for I'm all for a captain allowing their other officers and that player allowing other players to shine out to be able to say their bit and otherwise proceed. It is similarly, I know that I talk a lot over the course of the game, particularly to set up some things or explain puzzles, but I also like to lean back for exactly that reason when I can.
yeah, I gotta say that there is a very fine line between taking over a session and leading the session. And I think that you do a really good job as captain as to skirt that line and know when you have to say, okay, I'm the captain, I'm the one giving the directions to the crew, and when to step back and say, okay, let's let the crew flex their wings and figure out what to do.
I try. I really do.
You do. You do a fantastic job on it. Better than a lot of people that I've seen put into situations of command in an RPG. And it's a challenging thing to do in an RPG. That had like any setting that has a clear cut chain of command. It can be a challenge to balance that. And I feel like you've done a very good job with that. So
Thank
props
you.
to you.
Thank you. I mean, like I said, I've been GMing for 2 decades. You've got to learn to let your players. I mean, you're as a GM. I mean, I don't know how many of all of us regularly GM, but I mean, it's all collaborative storytelling, and it's like acting. People have asked me what's role playing games like. I mean, it's like acting, but your only audience typically, unless you're streaming, of course, your only audience are your fellow actors, and the only one who's got a script is the person running it. But I always try as a GM, like I've said, to let my players have their own sense of agency, to make sure everybody has the spotlight at one point or another, even when they split the party to search for clues. So I try to bring that into this, and I mean, I know I lament a lot about feeling like I'm hogging it. I'll probably still do that, but I do everything I can to make sure like I'm not the only one yammering in the game.
I think everyone needs reassurance from time to time. I don't think it's a bad thing that you're seeking that out and making sure you're not overstepping. And you're really not. I gotta agree. If anything, it makes me want to step up my game more so that you don't feel like that, but I don't have the brain power.
Oh, come on.
And just the fact that you acknowledge that can be a problem is huge, and is another reason why I think all of us of the crew can say that we are confident that you won't do that, is because you recognize, again, you've been at this for quite some time. You recognize where the issue is and that it can become an issue even if you're not trying for it to be an issue. So just keeping that line of communication open where it's like, okay, have I jumped the gun? Have I gone too far? Am I doing all right? Is always appreciated by the rest of us in the crew.
Thank you.
The one thing I would add to that, though, is that it does come out interesting when that communication comes awry, and you guys find ways to tackle it in narrative fashion. I think that particularly with the prospect of violence, there was sort of a take on that, which um, always adds that. We actually had a very similar storyline in Aegis during the Starry Compass arc, where it was more, it was less, I suppose, being overbearing, but more not fully accounting for the how other players might react. But it's interesting to see when those decisions run up against major character conflicts and how that shapes things.
We're all fine here. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Good.
Radiation leak, let us lock it down.
It could be better. It's all right.
Speaking of Aegis, Mr. GM, can you give us a brief rundown of what's going on with Aegis and what Aegis is about for some of our listeners?
Oh, an
Well,
ad segment. Lovely.
I'm delighted you asked and gave me the opportunity to once again mention Star Trek Adventures Aegis, our Saturday game, which is a more Starfleet-oriented game, particularly set in the prequel era of Enterprise. So it actually occurs alongside the events of Season 4, although for those that have watched, you may have noticed things have gotten a little bit strange. Um, that is to say, there have been events in that game which take on a significantly different tenor or trajectory than what you would have expected. Some of that from the player's own actions and perhaps other things going on in the background. But it has been a fun opportunity to explore some like side missions and other things going on in the era. We've had a few isolated a few very fun isolated standalone missions, some that really dug into some TOS vibes, fun things like a holodeck episode without the holodeck. Um, in particular, right now though, they are actually they have completed what has become part two of a three-part mini arc, much as Enterprise had back in the day. They've been going through something of an Indiana Jones style adventure, or that's kind of the loose inspiration. Um, it was previously Star Trek Adventure. Well, I've been titling each of the past couple episodes with an ellipses and then the element there. So the first part was Star Trek Adventures Aegis and the Starry Compass. The second part became Star Trek Adventures Aegis and the Marauders of the Distant Moon. And I'm prepared to announce actually here that I'll let you guys know about the third part of that episode, Star Trek Adventures Aegis and the Great Machine, which will be coming back on September 9th. So we'll be doing that.
Ooh, I like this title.
Yes, yes.
Very, very Pink Floyd of you.
Yep. We'll be doing that, and then after that, we will finally be hitting our finale there. I will say, if anyone is interested, there are a few interesting jumping on points. If you want the full lore experience, and that does include, yes, the what can be. I will readily concede my flaw as a GM is pacing. I pace things very slowly, and nowhere does that become more apparent than the 7-part pilot. I've tried to shave
God,
down.
was it only 7 parts?
Yeah, it was. It's not great. Um, but
Because see,
the play.
that makes it epic. It's the pilot of 7 parts.
Yes, yes. The GM was still figuring some things out and was new to the streaming bit, even if I'd been a GM for some years prior. Anyway, if you want the full lore experience, I will say for those interested in looking at Aegis, go to the beginning of the pilot, um, or the beginning of Fallen Star. If you want to abridge that and treat that as like the mini series that predates the proper show, then I would start off instead with the second episode of the series, The Groundskeeper, which is a much more TOS style adventure. It was also the point where we mostly settled into our regular cast. We would have one addition later on. But the pilot suffered from issues with fluctuations in the players. We, over the course of that adventure, lost a captain, helm officer, and engineer, and it became a bit of a juggling effort to maintain that. But yes, the groundskeeper is quite solid, I think. Um, if you want to jump in and see where things start getting exciting, then you could start off with our, and when I say exciting, I more mean if you want to see like where things have started to go potentially off the rails, then start with escalation. Though you'll lose a bit with the characters, but you get what I would say is quite an exciting mini arc, and kind of the messy adventures from there. But yeah, it's fun. More fun is planned. Um, I'm looking forward
And
to. Yeah.
and Star Trek Aegis happens on Saturdays at
1 p.m.
is it
Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. GMT because I scheduled it then because we have several players who live on the other end of the Atlantic, and I figure that'd be convenient for people in that area to watch as well as play.
It's always funny. I'm usually right when your stream's starting. I'm usually wrapping up our my couple of friends do a Savage Worlds Pathfinder, so we're ending that, and then your stream starts, and then I usually start streaming, and then yeah, it's a great
Yeah,
piggyback. So
I try to raid in when I can.
all right, it's about 9 o'clock, so we'll wrap up with just a few more questions. I think 2 hours is a good mark, and then it gives our wonderful editing crew less to edit. Uh, what this will be for everybody. What stupid hijinks do you want to see the crew go through next? What's a challenge that you think that they might get themselves into, and why is it rating Sol rating Earth?
Body swap.
Oh, that would be so.
No,
fucking
no,
fun.
no, no, no.
Yes,
No.
yes.
Traven,
All the body swap.
Traven cheats on that one though.
I do.
Ah, it's fine. Body swap. That's what I want to see.
Damn, that's a good idea.
Crescent and Raldar swap and nothing changes.
Oh,
Nothing changes whatsoever. We still hate each other.
I like the idea of the Gord body swapping, and it feels completely different to them. Like they
Oh,
are
yeah,
disgusted.
It would. They would be.
Yeah, yeah.
But
No,
externally, nothing would change.
externally no, but inside they're like, Jesus Christ, your leg always feels like this. Disgusting. Do you have any idea how big your tongue is? Jesus.
Why are your muscles so underdeveloped?
You'd get to deal with my my limp, my constant limp that I have.
Yeah.
That creaky leg.
That nobody else notices.
His leg is awful. Replace it. Get better.
First off, I notice his creaky leg. Secondly, this leg is awful. Replace it.
What about you, Mr. GM, without spoiling too much of what's coming, because that's the next question.
Oh dear. Well, for one thing, I feel like I'd like to hear more people's fun ideas for things that they would like to see. So I have ideas for things I want to do, and a good bit of them being written out, but I'm always flexible.
I think a robbery would be funny. Like a bank robbery.
Space train heist.
Train heist. Yep, I was just thinking that.
Fake marriage.
Yes!
I'm kind of biased, but towards these episodes because they're some of my favorite Voyager episodes. But I'd love to see us do a race like Paris did with the flyer, except have it be the whole ship.
I'd be down. I'd be down for that.
The only issue that I have with that is, while Azek thinks that he's a good pilot, the dice, however,
Yeah.
tend to disagree.
Just spend the
It's
whole
also
time.
the ship.
Yeah. Just spend the whole time giving me threat. Like, take threat for all your dice rolls, and it'll make things interesting. But if I get a certain level of threat, I will throw in the race episode.
What's the level?
I'll have to decide.
Give us a number. Give us a number.
Numbers are forthcoming.
If we don't have a number, we won't do it.
25.
Yeah. See, I've already talked to the GM about some stuff for future that I don't want to go into for fear
A
of
visit to the cat farm?
No, that's fine.
for fear of spoilage.
I've got a story arc that I talked a little bit about with Azek and a transporter that I don't really want to go into too depth, but I think it'd be a good story for him.
We need the Raldar family adventure.
Yes.
We
I agree.
definitely
Yeah.
we definitely need the Raldar family story. So I'll say as far as things I would like to be able to do, for one thing, I would like to make sure that I am building upon some of the character threads that we have laid out this season. In some cases, I do think more need to be explored. Um, Honestly, the way this past season went, it was I kind of decided to truncate it a little bit just because of how breaks and such came to pass. And originally I might have called what will be the season 2 premiere our season 1 finale, but I think it's fine just to have called it where we did with the end of episode 9. Um, yeah, but yes, I want to see how developments from the last season carry forward, how each of you take things from there, and how everybody grows with that. Um, I definitely see ways, places that we could expand on some of the backstory, as I both like what's going on in the Empire right now, as well as how some of your individual character threads, how you pull those through, and how those will intermingle with the ship, how it will affect their fate. Um, I guess the shorter bit I could say is once again doing a little more finding out.
I'm just looking forward to visiting a
Okay.
cat farm, and then the Zional Woe training arc.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to the Zional Croker wooing arc. That is where my shit's at.
That's
Uh,
that's gonna be a thing that
that's
might
gonna be a
happen.
thing. Yes,
But yeah,
the
I'm a,
power couple that nobody wanted.
oh my God! I just had a great idea. I've had a great idea, and
Oh no, we're
oh
doomed.
yeah,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
So
Reward him with threat.
I've got messaging for later.
excellent. And
so
you can just ignore any of my backstory and just let him be a salty old doctor for the rest of the time. I'm fine with that.
uh, yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
so this question goes out to the crew. How attached are we to the Yan? And if a bigger, better ship, or even just simply a better ship, came along, would we be willing to jump ship for said bigger, better ship? Or would our captain become a commodore of his own fleet?
In this scenario, does the yawn still work?
Uh, yeah.
Then yeah, we should have 2 ships.
It would, I think, Tabok's response to that would depend on where we are in his personal story. Like if at the time he's still working to fix his family's fortunes in a, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? A Klingon legal sense, then probably, yeah, just keep all the ships and build a fleet. But I'm not sure where, for the build a fleet for his house, you know. But depending upon where we go story wise, that for him might change. I don't know how else to put it.
Also, I feel like. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying it was that was kind of a tough question because it does depend on story. Do you need something with a lot more teeth? So you're going to go towards the like a battle cruiser versus something that needs a lot more cargo space. So you're going to go towards a ship that fits that better.
Well, I mean, anything bigger than the Yan is going to have more cargo space anyway. But depending upon if we're going to start having to be more shooty, bigger ship would be better. Again, it depends on where we are story wise. I mean, I personally, me, Sean, would love to have a much larger, much more capable ship, but then I'm a kind of warmonger at heart anyway. So, but that's not Tabak.
And then too, I'm thinking like from a role playing and Klingon perspective, if you're growing your fleet, if you're building up your house, you're going to start getting those pressures to act more in tradition to Klingon traditions, which is then going to make you question like, can I afford to keep this crew of 18 non-Klingons and 2 Klingons aboard my ship still? Tabak may not care.
Tabak would stick with he would not do anything to get rid of the crew that he has. Tabak is nothing if not loyal to the people that he feels are loyal to him, or not openly hostile. Let's put it that way. Like, one of the reasons he gave, found the papers for Vopri's slavery and like was like, nope, you're not a slave anymore. You're a member of this crew, is because he's very trying to figure out the right word here. He believes in the Klingon ideal of kind of like a meritocracy. You prove what you're worth, and you prove your worth and what you're capable of. That was one of the reasons that he, freed Vopri. Vopri has multiple times proved his worth and his capability. I mean, hell, Vopri is the reason I think the ship's still flying half the time. He's not a big stickler on species. Tabak isn't. It's behavior. It's what you do. What you say and what you do is way more important to him than what blood you carry. I think that sort of is a holdover from the fact that he's because of who and what he is. It changes your attitude when you're the second class citizen simply because of how you were born. With the Kuvat virus thing going. So it kind of his mind is a little bit more accepting to others than other Klingons might be. I'm gonna shut up now.
That's an awesome way to look at it. Mr. GM, are you intimidated by the idea of giving us a bigger, better, badder ship, or is that something that you're just leaving for the story to unfold?
Oh, a part of me would very much like to see you try.
Ooh, that sounds like a challenge.
Oh, that
And
does.
the
Oh,
dice are laughing at us.
yes, they are. The little dice
They're
are-
always laughing.
It's
You
going,
may-
go for it, bitches.
Yeah.
You may certainly try. That's a
Yep.
threat.
Yep. I will look forward to how the story unfolds at the great house or imperial shipyard that you decide to turn up towards, and just make that arrangement. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
Or
As
maybe.
Captain Picard once said so elegantly, you may test that assumption at your convenience.
Mhm.
Which is just the fancier way of saying, fuck around and find out.
Mhm.
And our final question is for our GM. Can you give us a little bit of a commercial of sorts, a commercial look into what we can expect from our next episode or our next season?
Mm. So I have continued to bounce around with the episode title, but I can say that when we return, this will actually mark the Jan's return to Zethlor, the hub world where you had originally picked up the jobs which you've had on the back half of the season. Um, and that you will get to allow some consequences to unfold from your first season's efforts. You may yet be able to seek out new allies, foes new and old that might make themselves aware, and other rogue elements whose designs may be somewhat beyond you, at least at this point. But it will tip further into some storylines that will definitely play out through the next season. I think that there will also be a few choices that may greatly shape the rest of the campaign as well to come.
Always a fan.
Yes.
Like visiting the cat farm.
The cat farm will definitely come. It will be I'm willing to give you the that is the one eccentricity I am happy to indulge in, more so than a full Mirror Universe episode or, God forbid, the mention of the beach episode.
Beach episode.
Now, listen, we should get all of those things. Every
The
single
Ryza
one.
episode. Ryza episode. Anyone?
Yes,
All
we
built.
deserve a
for
Ryza
beach
episode despite my many protests.
The one time
See,
Risa burned down in flames.
see, what he doesn't tell us is the fact that there's actually a beach planet not too far away, but it happens to be a demon class planet, and we're not able to go actually be on the planet for that long.
Uh, your
We could, if we tried really hard.
your bathing suit is an environmental suit.
I'm sure we can make it skin tight.
Ugh.
Oh,
I'm just picturing that getting peeled off the fur. I just ugh.
that's pretty gross.
On that note, really appreciate the opportunity to ask our crew questions. Being able to play with you guys each week has been has been an absolute blast. And I really appreciate the time here. And I will hand it back over to our GM for closing remarks.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Joe, for for coming up with the questions tonight. And yeah, I always appreciate the incisive commentary and like in the lines of thought that you can bring up with this, and just general solid management. Once again, for all of you catching this, certainly here in the archive, be sure to check out the links below that will mention um, the Overland Gamer podcast. By all means, check them out. They, as I recall, travel the country, uh, visit different game stores, and talk about different sorts of tabletop games of all sorts. So I would highly encourage that, and of course to check out our own Overland Gamer. Um, and actually, before I go, that's a question for everybody else. Does anybody have anything that they would like to shout out right now, or before we head out for the evening?
I will say
I just wanted to shout that out.
quite a few of those questions came in from Woe and our listener or our stream questions. So they weren't all mine. I can't take full credit for all of those as much as I'd like to.
Of course.
Yeah, I sent a lot of questions.
Nice.
And thank you for asking them. That made me happy. I'd like to shout out to my mom, who I hope never, ever listens to any of these episodes. Ever. Because I don't want her to hear me swear or make dirty jokes.
Fair enough.
Still, shout out to her.
Yeah. Well, absent anything else, then I suppose we will see you folks next week. We will be coming back on that'll be September 6th. We will be resuming the main campaign pending any other sort of major scheduling difficulties. If you want to keep up on that, then I would say, of course, follow here. Follow us over on our social media platforms. Right now, that is just Mastodon, but I will continue to test other alternatives. Of course, the most reliable way too is to join the new community Discord that we have going. So we welcome you either place, and yeah, hope you join us again next week and get to enjoy the campaign as much as we have here. But until then, I think we are going to leave off here. So I wish you folks a good evening. For any that are just looking to keep things going for a bit, or you know, I think I'm going to send us over to the friends that we shouted out over at the start. And drop by the initiative order. So if you'd care to just say a quick hello, if you're subscribed, you can give them our laser beam eye emote. And yeah, just either stop in, relax for a moment if you want. You can listen to the tabletop game they have going right now. If not, then just enjoy the rest of your evening. Rest, go on and do what you will. But we will catch you folks later. So in the meantime, thank you so much for spending your evening with us. Farewell. Kapla.
Bye bye now. Drink clean water.
You got me. I'm drinking clean water.
Kapla.
Be sure to spend your quatlus to thwart the actions of the ages on Saturdays.
What's up, my
I mean,
17
be nice.